All right, let's get right into it. Today we're hunting down one of the most frustrating villains in the Wi-Fi world, the dead zone. I'm not talking about the kind you can fix with a quick reboot. No, we're going after the really mysterious ones, where a perfect signal just vanishes into thin air. And the culprit? Well, the culprit is usually hiding in plain sight.
Now, before we put on our detective hats, just a quick heads up. This is actually part 4 of a bigger 10-part series. Everything we're covering today comes from a really detailed guide by the experts over at RFI Detectives, who are part of Virtualization Options LLC. We're zeroing in on their findings from Chapter 4, which is all about how the physical environment messes with our signals.
You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? You're on site, everything looks green on the dashboard, every AP is humming along, but there's that one spot in the building where the Wi-Fi signal just completely falls off a cliff. It makes no sense. It's a classic whodunit, and today we're going to learn how to crack the case.
So first, let's understand who we're up against. This isn't some loud, obvious problem. This thing is sneaky. It's a case of silent sabotage.
The RFI Detectives report calls this a silent performance killer. And honestly, that's the perfect description. This isn't a big system crash that sets off a 5-alarm fire. No, it's a slow, gradual decline. Throughput just kind of creeps down, users get used to it, and nobody gets an alert. They just think, oh, the Wi-Fi is slow today.
And this is the most important mindset shift you can make. When you find one of these dead zones, your first instinct might be to stare at your laptop, at the network controller. But you gotta stop. Look up. Look around the room. You're not debugging a network fault. You're investigating a physical crime scene.
Okay, so if it's a crime scene, we need some suspects. In our world, the perps aren't people. They're the boring, everyday objects that are all around us. So let's pull them into a lineup.
And here they are, the usual suspects. You've got your big metal filing cabinets, a classic Wi-Fi killer, foil-backed insulation panels, thick concrete walls, especially the ones with rebar inside. You might even have interference from things like industrial motors or some old forgotten wireless presentation system buzzing away in a meeting room. These things absolutely murder RF signals.
The official term for what these things create is an RF barrier. Basically, it's anything physical that weakens, or to use the technical term, attenuates, the signal so much that it creates a signal shadow. If a user steps into that shadow, poof, their connection is gone. Our job is to figure out what's casting that shadow.
So we've got our suspects. But how do we prove which one is guilty? We can't just point fingers and guess. We need a process. We need to follow the clues step by step. And here's that process. It's a 4-step investigation. 1, you do a real site survey. Be systematic about it. 2, you check your channels. 3, you use a spectrum analyzer to see if there's any non-Wi-Fi noise. But look, step 4 is the magic bullet. Physical correlation. You have to get up, walk the space, and connect what the data is telling you to what you can physically see and touch.
Think about it like this. Your heat map is your map to the crime scene. It'll show you exactly where the signal is dying with a big red splotch. But it won't tell you why. That's your job. You're the detective who has to stand on that red spot, look around and say, aha, it's that giant concrete pillar. The tools give you the data, you provide the insight.
All right, let's look at a real-world example from the report that shows this process in action. We'll call this one the case of the cabinets.
So here's the scene, and I'm sure this sounds pretty familiar. An office has users in one corner complaining about awful, choppy Wi-Fi. But when the tech checks the system, every AP is online, healthy, and serving clients just fine. It's a classic mystery.
So the RFI detectives get on site and they start their investigation. And pretty quickly, they find the smoking gun. They measure an extra 15 to 20 decibels of signal loss in that one specific area. To be clear, that is a huge, huge drop. Something physical was just gobbling up that signal.
And the culprit was a 15-foot-long wall of metal filing cabinets, 6 feet high, stuffed completely full of paper. It was sitting right between the AP and the user's desks, acting as a massive RF barrier. It was hiding in plain sight the whole time, because, it's just office furniture, right? Wrong.
Now, those cabinets were launching a 2-pronged attack. First, they were just blocking the signal, causing that massive attenuation, but they were also reflecting the signal, which creates a nasty thing called destructive multipath. Think of it like ripples in a pond. When 2 waves meet and they're out of sync, they can cancel each other out. That's what was happening. The reflected signals were arriving just right to kill the main signal, totally trashing the quality.
So, what's the lesson here? Let's take everything we just learned and put it all together into a toolkit you can take with you to your next job.
Here it is, your detective's checklist.
First, always remember that interference is usually silent. Second, you have to correlate your data with the physical world. Third, start suspecting everyday stuff, like furniture and walls. Fourth, stick to the process, survey, analyze, correlate. And finally, never forget that the tools are just your informants. You are the detective who solves the case.
So I'll leave you with this one question. The next time you walk onto a site, look around with new eyes. Don't just see walls and desks. See potential suspects. See RF barriers. What silent performance killer is hiding in plain sight on your network, just waiting for a good detective to find it?